गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. Okay, Om. It's a very interesting discussion that we are doing. The Purvapaksha is of Dvaitins. Swamiji has not stated whose argument is it, but from the way the argument is, by watching the argument, I guessed it could be of Dvaitins. Among the Dvaitins, particularly of Madhvas, it could be. But anyway, we are not interested about whose argument it is. It is the argument that counts for us, whosoever it may be. So the Dvaitins told that Aham Pratyaya is the nature of Atma. Atma is consciousness, and also it is known also. Atma is the subject as well as an object. Atma is the consciousness, and also it is known as I. Nanu endantenu gottagta ide. So Atma knows itself. This is what Purvapakshi's argument. For this, the Siddhanti, for this Purvapaksha, Siddhanti's reply was, it's a very important argument, subject and object can't be one simultaneously. Neither simultaneously nor in a sequence. Subject and object can't be one. That means a thing can't be subject as well as an object, neither simultaneously. It can't be simultaneously because Atma doesn't have parts. Atma is a niramsha. This we have discussed. Niramshatvacha drashturatmanah. Atma is partless. It doesn't have various parts, various aspects. Therefore, one aspect is knower, another aspect is known. We can't say that. Therefore, Atma is not simultaneously subject cum object. Okay, if Atma is not simultaneously subject and object, will it be sequence, one after the other? Niramshatvacha drashturatmanah svavishaya jnanashrayatva asiddhihi nacha kadachit drashtuhu svavishayepi pramananveshana bhavati. Neither it can be simultaneously subject and object because it is partless. Consciousness doesn't have conscious and unconscious two aspects in it. Okay. Nor it can be one after the other. First it is conscious subject and later it becomes object. That is also ridiculous, because if it sequentially, for some time subject and for some time object, this is also meaningless. This is for sake of argument we are talking, but it is anubhava viruddha. Nobody has such an anubhava in life. When you are subject, you are not object. When you are object, you are not subject, because that also doesn't work. Therefore, in ultimate conclusion is subject and object can't be together. Okay. Subject and object, the same thing can't be simultaneously subject and object. It can't be both subject and object. Okay. So, you don't go by the argument alone. Look at your anubhava. The awareness, the consciousness is not known. That means consciousness cannot be thought of. It cannot be conceived. If you conceive something, that is not you. Anything you can think of, that is not you. Remember, this is very good manana, very good nididhyasana. In nididhyasana, just be natural. You don't even be, it is there already. Watch that there is already consciousness. If you have some thought about you, the thought is not you, because thought is object of your consciousness. A thought is an object of consciousness. The thought is not you. If you have any thought about you, either as a good or bad or happy or unhappy or sorrowful, any conception, any thought of you, if you can entertain, the thought is not you. That means if you can think something about you, whatever you think, that is not you. The one who is aware is the awareness itself has no conception. It can't be imagined, it can't be conceived. Awareness is so pure that it cannot be conceived. That means you can't have an image of consciousness, you can't have a conception of consciousness. It is like a deep sleep, or it is like a baby. You look at a baby, 1 year old, 2-year-old baby. Does baby have an individuality? Is baby self-conscious? Individuality means I am so and so. This thought baby doesn't have. Or you go back to your childhood and try to recall your childhood. There is a blank existence. That means there is no self-consciousness about you. Self-consciousness means a thought about you, a conception about you, isn't it? The self-consciousness is not Atma, remember. Consciousness, without me, I, there is no notion of I and me. I or me. I, me, both are same. So, without any notion of yourself, you exist. As a baby, we all existed. Even now we are that. Why go back to the old even now? Even now, there is a consciousness without who am I? What am I? There is no concept of what am I. If you have a thought that I, that is not you, because that is known to the consciousness. That is known to the consciousness. Therefore, it is a selfless. In an English expression, selfless means without individuality, without aham pratyaya. Without aham pratyaya is our Indian language. In English, we say it is a selfless, without any self-identity. Without any so and so, I am such and such, this thought is not there. There is no self-image, there is no self-consciousness. I am using self-consciousness in the sense of self-image. There is no self-image. How beautiful it is. No self-image, no self-consciousness like a baby. You are conscious. What? What are you? How are you? That thought is not there. Therefore, any thought you entertain, that I am like this, I, the very thought of I is not you. You exist without a thought of I. Because it is a pure consciousness, any other thing it knows, but itself, it can't have a conception, an idea of you. This is what we need to do in your Manana and Nididhyasana. Manana and Nididhyasana. Don't make it a concept. Atma, Anatma, subject, object, all these things are not meant for making concepts. Okay? If you concept, it is good for you, become a scholar and teach others and all that is okay. But for your own understanding, for our own understanding, there is consciousness. Why? Because it is there naturally. Consciousness is there without any self-image, without any self-opinion, self-idea. It has no idea of self. It has no idea of I notion. Idea of self in English. I notion we call in Sanskrit. Aham buddhi, aham pratyaya. There is no pratyaya about Atma. Atma is free from pratyaya. You can't have any pratyaya about Atma, either as a subject or as an object. It is a pure subject without any opinion, without any image. Therefore, that is consciousness. So therefore, niramshatvacha drashturatmanaha svavishaya jnanashrayatva asiddhihi. It can't be an object of its own conscious. Object means you can't have a conception, you can't have an idea, you can't have an opinion about Atma. Atma is itself. It is a self-svatasiddha. It is self-shining, not self-conscious. Self-shining is good. Self-conscious, self-shining is different. Self-conscious means you have an opinion, you have an idea, you have an imagination of yourself. You can't be conscious of yourself. You can be self-shining, you can say. See, consciousness means the same. But in English, that conscious you can't have, self-conscious you can't say. You can be self-shining. Atma is self-shining. Okay? So, nacha kadachid drashtuh swavishayepi pramananveshana bhavati. Atma never tries to know itself, never tries to conceive itself, never tries to objectify. Objectify means you can't be conscious of yourself. Atma never tries to be conscious of itself. I am like this, I am like this, what am I? All the questions, who am I, what am I, only negates. If you have any thought of yourself that I am like this, I am like, all that is not you. If you can think, if you can imagine, that's not you. This is an excellent way of understanding Atma. Anything you think of yourself, that's not you. Because that is Anatma. Now you drop away all of that, a bare consciousness, without any thought, without any opinion. It is there already, self-existing. It is self-existing, self-shining Atma. It has no image, like a baby, or like in deep sleep, like in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Baby, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, you have to meditate. When you meditate, imagine, see, not imagine, just to see how you are like a baby, without any self-consciousness, like in deep sleep, like in Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That's why we call it Vaishvanara, the whole wakeful consciousness. The wakeful consciousness is a consciousness without self-consciousness. If you have a self-conscious, you become pramata, you become an individual. But the whole wakeful consciousness is consciousness without self-consciousness, without an I notion. Without an I notion, there is consciousness. You don't have to imagine. If more you imagine, more you remain individual. More you have an aham pratyaya. It's not to be imagined. It points out. The imagination, self-consciousness drops off. You just exist. See, that's the beauty of it. Okay. Siddhasyaiva nacha kadachid drashtuhu swavishayepi pramananveshana bhavati. Nobody ever tries to conceive. Nobody tries to ever think of oneself. No conception, no thought about oneself. Because where is the need? Where is the need? Itself is, I exist, it is me. When I am present, why do I try to know myself? Why do I try to know what am I, who am I, whatever words you use? Nobody tries, because anybody is already existing person. Anybody is an already existing being, not say person. Person means again individuality comes. Existing being, let us say. Existing being. Being is existence, whatever. There is already a being. What is it? Now, what is it you are imagining? How is it you are imagining? It is not what is it, how is it. It is a being, that's all. A being, a being, a pure existence. Therefore, when a being doesn't try to know. If it tries to know, imagination has come. If a being is trying to know, imagination has come. Now that is not you. If you imagine, that is anatma. That is not atma. Therefore, what am I, who am I? Anything you imagine, anything you conceive is not you. So, that conception you are aware of, that awareness is atma. Any conception, any imagination, any idea, either of you or of somebody else, all these ideas and thoughts are known to the consciousness. Consciousness is, that's why we call infinite. What do we mean by infinite? See, when we say consciousness is infinite, infinite only means that, see, infinity, when we say consciousness or Atma is infinite, we generally imagine infinity. Infinity can't be imagined. See, this is very interesting thing. Infinity is a negation of all ideas, all conception. Infinity is a negation of all conception. Infinity itself is not a conception. Try. If you imagine infinity, then it is not infinity. see, you watch. If you imagine infinity, it is not infinity. Then what? Then how do you understand infinity? Infinity is a negative word. It negates all conceptions, all sizes, all measurements, all dimensions. Any dimension, any relationship, any idea, any conception, all of them you negate. It is like a silence. Atma is like silence. Silence means no conception, no idea. It is a silence, pure silence. It is just silence. Therefore, infinity, silence, consciousness, all these are synonyms. Infinity is like silence. It negates all imaginations, all measurements, all ideas, all concepts. It is self-existing. That's all. What stands? It is already there. Even this thinking which we are doing, even this listening already taking place in the consciousness. Okay? Even this listening is taking place in the consciousness. Therefore, today I am speaking on Sugama. Okay? Those who have joined just now, I am not speaking ಪರಿಭಾಷಾ. ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ಪರಿಭಾಷಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಸುಗಮದಲ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಒಂದು 4-6 ದಿವಸ ಸುಗಮನೇ ನಡೆಯಲಿ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಆ ಸುಗಮಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಹಾಲಿಡೇಸ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಕೆಲವು 4-6 ದಿವಸ ಸುಗಮ ನಡೆಯಲಿ, ಒಂದು 4-6 ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗಳು ಮುಂದೆ. Therefore, I am speaking on Sugama only. Paribhasha will speak later, next week or even after that. Swamiji's Aradhana is next week. After Aradhana, we'll speak on Paribhasha. You can enjoy your holiday. You can listen. Or if you want to listen, you can listen to Sugama. Okay. So, infinity is like silence. Tell me the dimension of silence. Can you imagine silence? It's a very interesting thing, you see. You meditate on silence. Meditation means what? You think. You think on silence. If you think, that is not silence. If you think that nirvikalpa, you can't think. Silence is thoughtless. Thoughtless can't be thought of. You are only, all thoughts get erased, all thought gets dropped, gets negated. What is. Even this word is not required. Even this is not required because it is already there. In its existence, this thought is arising. Even that it is, the word that it is also arising in the existence, in the being. The being is self-existence, self-existing. Even this self-existing expression is not required. You say it is, and the word also, as I say, and the word ends. I say it is. Afterwards, silence follows. I say that it is, and stop it. The silence follows. That silence doesn't follow. The silence has been there. Even while telling, even while speaking, silence has been there. Before you start speaking, silence is. Even while speaking, silence is. You stop the word that it is. I stopped. There is silence. So the silence is not a result of stopping. The silence is there even while speaking. Even before you start speaking, while speaking, after stopping the speaking, the silence is there. It's like water is there even while, even before the wave arises. Water is there even before the wave arises. Even when the wave is, water is. Even when the wave subsides, water is. When is not the water? Tell me, with reference to wave. With reference to wave, when is not the water? Water alone is. Similarly, silence is there. Silence means no conception, no thought. In the no conception, there is a conception. Even while there is a conception, there is silence. Silence is neither created, nor stopped, nor overpowered. See, a formless akasha. Take another example is akasha. In the akasha, you brought the hand. Is hand overpowering akasha? Akasha is formless. In the formless akasha, you brought the hand. Now, is the hand overpowering akasha? Is the hand overpowering akasha, covering up akasha? Can the hand cover up the akasha? You remove the hand, akasha. Does akasha come? Was it not there even before? Was it not existing even before? So the hand doesn't cover up akasha. Or the hand doesn't cover up the light. You can see another light. Now here is a light. I brought the hand. Does the hand cover up the light? Does the hand cover up the light? See how interesting it is. Without the hand, there is light. You bring the hand. Does the hand cover up the light? No, it can't. No object can cover up the light. This is very interesting, see. No object. When there is no object, when there is a total formless, there is light. You bring an object, it doesn't cover up the light. Light still continues. Then the form goes away, still the light is. Light is self-existing. In an example I am talking. Similarly, silence is self-existing. Atma means self-existence. A consciousness, not the consciousness, not a consciousness. A consciousness means a consciousness of a given thing, or a consciousness in a given mode. Conscious has no modes. Okay? No modes, no states. Consciousness has neither a mode nor a state nor a condition. It is a conditionless consciousness. It is a stateless consciousness. It is a modeless consciousness. Consciousness is consciousness, that's all. Okay. Consciousness is self-existing, self-shining. No form, no thought can replace the consciousness. It is like hand cannot cover up the light. See, hand is brought in the light. When you bring the hand into the light, does it cover up the light? Watch this. Just as hand cannot cover up the light, so too no thought can cover up the consciousness. No thought can cover up the consciousness. Thought merges into consciousness like a wave merges in. Wave, in spite of appearing, it drowns in the water. The wave, in spite of its appearance, even while the wave is appearing, it is drowned in water. Wave, in order to drown in water, need not disappear. Note this. The wave, in order to get drowned in water, it need not disappear. If you understand this, you have understood Atma. Wave, in order to be drowned in water, it need not have to disappear. Even while appearing, it is drowned in water. When is the time? When was the wave not drowned in water? Tell me. When is the wave not drowned in water? How beautiful it is. Wave is already water. Does it have to disappear? Appear, disappear, both are water. Appearance of wave, disappearance of wave, both are water. Wave is wave in whatever condition, whether appearing or disappearing, is already drowned in water. Wave, whether appearing or disappearing, is already drowned in water. Similarly, a thought is silence. Thought, whether appearing or disappearing, appearing or non-appearing, both the conditions, it is drowned in silence. Thought is drowned in silence, or thought is drowned in consciousness. Thought is drowned in consciousness, whether appearing or not appearing. Thought is already consciousness. There is nothing other than consciousness. Even this thought also, nothing is also consciousness. The very thought is consciousness. Whether you think or don't think is consciousness, because nothing other than consciousness. Silence, nothing other than silence. Even the words are silence. Words get drowned in silence. Words are not additional to silence. Watch this. Words are not additional to silence. Words are born of silence, made up of silence. Words are made up of silence. Like a mud pot is made up of mud. A metallic mud pot is made up of mud. A plastic vessel is made up of plastic. A plastic vessel is made up of plastic. A words made up of silence are drowned in silence. Made up of silence can't constitute something other than silence. Words made up of silence can't constitute anything other than silence. They are the silence. The words are the silence. Do you see that? If you see this, you are already clear. There is no world for you. World doesn't exist other than Brahman, other than consciousness. What you call world is nothing but consciousness. There are various thoughts. All the thoughts are aspects of consciousness. Therefore, they are drowned in consciousness. World is nothing but thoughts. All the thoughts are drowned in consciousness. They are not additional to consciousness. They are nothing additional to consciousness. Even when the thought is appearing, it is drowned in consciousness. Even when it is not appearing, even when there is no thought, it is still consciousness. Consciousness swallows everything, overwhelms everything. There is consciousness. Consciousness, nothing other than consciousness. This is Nididhyasana. This is how we have to do Nididhyasana. Okay. Therefore, a subject without a self-consciousness. It is a subject. This is called Sakshi. Subject without self-consciousness is Sakshi. Sakshi is only consciousness without self-consciousness. See, this English expression, self-consciousness, is a good word. Without a self-thought, a self-opinion, a self-image, without some conception, some idea. If you conceive, it is not you. That's not Atma. Even that conception is drowned in Sakshi. Self-consciousness is drowned in consciousness. Self-consciousness is drowned in consciousness. There is only Sakshi. There is nothing other than Sakshi. Okay. There is, even this word there is already drowned in consciousness. As you are speaking, you are already drowned in consciousness. So whether you speak or stop speaking, both are already consciousness. Speaking is consciousness. No speaking is consciousness. Listening is consciousness. No listening is consciousness. There is nothing other than consciousness. In spite of something other than consciousness, still there is consciousness. Something other is also drowned in consciousness. See, other than consciousness, a thought of consciousness is drowned in consciousness. A thought of silence is drowned in silence. A thought of silence is already drowned in silence. Okay? That's it. Therefore, we'll proceed with the book. If you get it, you get it. That's all. If you get it, it's there spontaneously. So, kintu aham pratyaye swabhutai, very good point. See, siddhasyaivahi. Consciousness doesn't go for objectifying itself. Objectifying. Consciousness doesn't go to objectify itself. It doesn't look for objectifying, doesn't look for knowing itself. Consciousness doesn't look for knowing itself. Where is the need to know? Where is the need to look for? Where is the need to try to know? Because already consciousness. If you try to know, that means you are objectifying, you are entertaining a thought about consciousness. Who needs the thought? Who needs the thought? Does consciousness need a thought? Consciousness is already conscious. Does consciousness need a thought about consciousness? Who needs the self-consciousness thought? A thought of self-consciousness? Consciousness doesn't need. The thought is unnecessary. It's a false thought. That's why we call it Adhyasa. See how Vedantins, how Advaitins, how Shankaracharya is very perfectly right. Which I think it's not easy to understand, but this is the highest Vedanta. There is nothing in it. It's a final. Consciousness, self-consciousness. Okay. Self-consciousness. Consciousness doesn't need. Self-consciousness means being conscious of yourself. See, consciousness is always meant to, in common parlance, consciousness is meant to be conscious of others. Conscious means conscious of other. See, the very consciousness means conscious of something. The very conscious means conscious of other. Okay. It can't be conscious of itself. Why? There is no need. There is no need. You need to know if you have not known it. You need to know if it is not known to it. When you are already conscious, where is the need to be conscious of consciousness? See? Does light need light? Take an example. If it is dark, you need the light to illuminate. Does the light need? For what? See, this is a very good example. Darkness needs a light to illuminate. If it is dark, you need a light to illuminate. Light, does it need another light to illuminate? Or does it need to illuminate itself? It has no meaning. Similarly, consciousness trying to know, where is the need? Light always illumines something other than it. Light always illumines something other than it. Light doesn't illumine, doesn't need to. And it has no meaning to illumine itself. Similarly, the very consciousness means it is conscious of something other than itself. Can consciousness be conscious of itself? Can consciousness be conscious? Does consciousness look for being conscious of itself? Does consciousness try or look for being conscious of itself? It doesn't. No need. No need. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, the very thought is wrong. See here, Swamiji says, this whole page is beautiful page. Kadach nacha kadachit drashtuhu swavishayepi pramananveshana bhavati. Drashta is a consciousness. Consciousness never tries to be conscious of itself. Consciousness never tries to be conscious of itself. If you are conscious, then there's definitely something else. If you say, I am conscious, that means you are conscious of something else. Isn't it? Don't imagine. It's not imagination, it is not conception. See directly the Anubhava. Anubhava I am pointing out. Shastra is pointing out the Anubhava. It's just pointing out and you just say it is there already a fact. An existing fact we are touching. Consciousness, if it is trying to know, it tries to know something other than it. And itself, where is the need? Itself already conscious. Already consciousness. Therefore, see, nacha kadachit drashtuhu swavishayepi pramananveshana bhavati. It doesn't try to conceive itself. Consciousness doesn't try to be self-conscious. Okay? Doesn't try to be. Consciousness does not try to be self-conscious. This is important. If you are self-conscious, that means you made object. That is Adhyasa. You made an object of it. If you try to be self-conscious, self-conscious means you made a thought. You made a thought about consciousness. If you are entertained a notion about consciousness, then that is an Adhyasa. Adhyasa is only this much. Adhyasa is not. Adhyasa means where is it? People try to. This is Adhyasa. You become self-conscious. That is Adhyasa. That's not Atma. Okay. So being self-conscious is Adhyasa. Because Atma cannot be conceived. No need. And if you conceive, that's not Atma. If you conceive, that is not Atma. Atma is itself self-existing. It doesn't need to conceive. A conception becomes a thought. Thought is something other than. Thought means thought refers to something other than. Thought itself imagines that there is other than consciousness. See, thought imagines something other than, but there is no such thing called other than consciousness. There is no such thing called other than consciousness. This is called technically anatma. Anatma means what? Other than consciousness. See, can consciousness know other than consciousness? See that. Can light know darkness? This is a good question. Can light know darkness? Yes. Illumine. Try. Let the light illumine the darkness. Meaningless. Meaningless. So, can consciousness know other than consciousness? That's why that other than consciousness itself is Adhyasa. There is no such thing called other than. Anatma. Other than consciousness can't know itself. It can only know something other than itself. If consciousness is trying to know, if it conceives, it knows something other than it. But what is other than it? There is no such thing called other than it. So that other than itself is an Adhyasa. Consciousness imagining something other than consciousness itself is impossible. It is imagining impossible. That's why it is Adhyasa. But since it imagined, the thought thinks that since I have imagined, there is there. See, you imagine and you think that what is imagined must be there. Generally, we say that. You imagine that, I give you an example. You imagine that that fellow is wicked. That fellow is trying to hurt me. A person is trying to harm me, you imagine. Oh, that you saw one person and you say, my God, who is he? He must be a thief. He must have come to rob me. He must have come to ill-treat me. You imagine. Now you start believing your own imagination. Then you are afraid that, oh, he will hurt me. He will harm me. He will harm me. Generally, people do that. Those who have got inferiority complex like this, fear. People who are under fear think like that. Similarly, consciousness imagining something. The very imagination is of something other. Then what is the other? There is no other. Except your imagination, there is no other. Consciousness imagining something other than consciousness itself is an imagination. There is no other. Where is Anatma? Anatma is only imagination. Oh, consciousness imagining something other than consciousness. That other than consciousness, where is it? It is only your imagination. You imagined, therefore you believe that there is something other than consciousness. You question it. You watch it. Something other than consciousness doesn't exist. Other than consciousness is also consciousness alone. It is only a thought. The thought is again a consciousness. Therefore, Anatma doesn't exist. See, this is how you negate Adhyasa. You negate Anatma. There is only consciousness. That other than consciousness is a thought. The thought gets drowned in consciousness. You see this? Other than consciousness is only a thought, is only an imagination. That imagination gets drowned in consciousness because the thought has arisen in consciousness. When it is made of consciousness, a thought is made of consciousness. Like a plastic bottle is made of plastic. A mud pot is made of mud. Okay? Anything made of whatever material it is made of, it continues to be the same material. If a thought is made of consciousness, it continues to be consciousness. A thought made of consciousness about other than consciousness. A thought made of consciousness about other than, but there is no such thing called other. Consciousness can't think of other. Where is other? Other is only a thought within consciousness. Other than consciousness is only a thought within consciousness. Therefore, other is only an imagination. That's why we say Anatma is Mithya. Satyanrute mithuni kritya. We have already discussed. You can go back to those talks. Anruta. Anruta means imagined. That's all. Anatma doesn't exist. We say Atma, Anatma, two things. You talk to the Vyakhyanakaras. They imagine Anatma is an entity, Atma is an entity, and they combine. Bhashyakara openly says Satyanrute mithuni kritya. Consciousness is. What is Anatma? What is something other than consciousness? Is Anatma. Atma is consciousness. Anatma is something other than consciousness. Anatma is Anruta. That means it is not there. Other than consciousness is only an imagination within consciousness. And that imagination is made of consciousness. See, imagination is made of consciousness. And you are imagining something other than consciousness. Other than consciousness, consciousness cannot imagine. Can light imagine darkness? Can light imagine darkness? Therefore, it is only Adhyasta, Anruta. That's why we call it Anruta. It doesn't exist. Okay? It doesn't exist. Anrutam doesn't exist. That's why we say it is an Adhyasta. Adhyasta means something assumed. Assumed is also assumed. The thought of assumed is also assumed only. That means you are in the assumption and then they're imagining. You are believing your own assumption. You assume and believing your own assumption. You assume and believe what you assumed. See, what you have assumed as something there. It is assumption. Why do you believe it? It's not there. It's over. That means it is drowned in consciousness. The thought of anatma, the thought of other than consciousness is only entertained by consciousness. The thought of something other than consciousness is entertained by consciousness. Therefore, it gets drowned. When? There is no when. It is already drowned. Like wave is already drowned in water. When? There is no question of when. It is already drowned. All the time it is drowned in water. You tell me, when is the wave drowned in water? It is always. There is never a time when the wave comes out of water. Is it a crocodile that comes out of water onto the seashore? Is thought a crocodile which comes out of is wave like a crocodile which comes out of water? Wave is not crocodile which comes out of water. It can never come out because wave is already drowned when it is all the time water alone. Similarly, thought is already silence. Thought is already consciousness. Thought is, you can never think consciousness. Every thought is about something other than consciousness. Every thought is about other than consciousness. Because consciousness itself cannot be thought of. Any thought is about other than consciousness. Then what is other than consciousness which consciousness cannot think of? Therefore, something other than consciousness is only a thought of consciousness, thought within consciousness, thought made of consciousness, and other than is only an imagination within consciousness. That means it is already drowned in consciousness. Now tell me, where is anatma? That's why satyanrute, anatma is anruta. Anatma doesn't exist. Okay. That anatma is something anirvachaniya. All that is Vyakhyanakaras. Don't go to the Vyakhyanakaras, you'll get confused. Don't imagine. Therefore, Satyanrute, how Bhashyakara straight, he never hides. He repeats what is important, he repeats. If you go only go by Bhashyakara, you will never miss it. You always straight away understand it. If you go to somebody else, then you get confused. Satyanrute mithani krutya. Anruta is imagined. Imagined means it doesn't exist. But your mind is believing. That's why the confusion. You question what is that you are believing it. What you thought as something other than consciousness is already within consciousness, already drowned in consciousness. Then there is no anatma. Negated. This is called as anatma. Negated. There is only Brahman. Aitalla. There is only Brahman and there is no world. We have negated everything. There is only one Brahman, one non-dual Brahman. Okay. Therefore, see, aham pratyayi. Reading the book should not be just finishing the book. Every sentence contemplate. It should be a manana and nididhyasana. Every sentence should be Brahman alone. Every sentence merges into Brahman alone. There is nothing other than Brahman. Okay. Therefore, siddhasyaiva drashtur vishaya vishayini darshanecha bhavati. So the consciousness doesn't need to be established because it is self-existing, self-established. It's always there. Nobody needs any confirmation of consciousness. Do you ever check, whether there is any consciousness? See, this example Bhashyakara gives in Gita Bhashya. When somebody was asked it, hey, come on, look at it. Look at means see whether it is there or not. Go see and tell me. Somebody asked, hey, look at it and tell me whether it is there or not. So, before you go to see something, you have to see something. Okay? Before you go to see something, do you question whether first, do I exist a seer? Do I seer? Do I, the seer, exist first? Do you need to confirm the very existence of seer? Do you first verify? First, I asked you to come and look at it, whether it is somebody has come or not. Look at it. Before you look at it, do you verify whether I exist or not? Do you verify whether I exist or not? After verifying, yes, I exist. Now come on, let me go and see others. Because you don't verify. You don't need to verify. When I asked you to look whether somebody has come or not, you instantly go to look, because looking is your nature. The very looker, the one onlooker, one who is watching, one who is knowing is already there. Already there means confirmed, self-existing. You don't have to verify and you don't have to confirm his existence after verification. Verification is not required. It is self-existing, self-shining. Atma is self-existing, self-shining. You don't need to verify. When I asked you to look for something, you just go and look. Look, already looking is there. Already looking is there. You don't have to say, oh, whether I do exist or not. First, let me verify and confirm, then I'll do. When I say, a worldly example, I'll give you. Come on, here is a darkness. Let us see that thing. You have some battery. First, you want to say, let me switch on the battery first. Let me check whether the battery is working. Then with the help of the battery, with the help of this torchlight, then I'll look at others. Before you look at others, first you check whether the torchlight is working or not. Isn't it? When the torchlight is working, you switch on and then you switch on and direct the torchlight upon something. Okay? You switch on and direct that light on something. Focus it on something. Before you focus it, first you switch on. Now here, Atma, do you have to switch on and then look at others? It is already on. Do you need to switch on your torchlight of Atma? When is it not on? Tell me. There is no off for it. Therefore, it doesn't need on. It doesn't need switching on, because it was never switched off. It can never be. It is always on by its very nature. This is called self-consciousness. Any other thing, you have to use it. You have to turn it on and then use it. Consciousness, do you have to turn it on? That's what he's asking. Do you ever first verify yourself and then you use it? No need. Therefore he says, Nacha kadachit drashtuhu swavishayepi pramananveshana. These are Sanskrit words, I tell you, very peculiar words. You should be familiar with the language of Sanskrit. Otherwise, see, the example which I have given you, that self-verification, pramananveshana. You don't first verify and then look to others. You don't verify. You don't need pramananveshana. This pramananveshana is verification. Okay? You don't need to verification. Pramananveshana siddhasyaiva hi drashtuhu drishya vishayini darshanecha sambhavati. It is already switch on. Switch on means it is already on, naturally on. Okay? And that without verifying himself. He is conscious being. He just straight away goes about looking at it. I asked you, look at it, whether has he come or not. He just goes about looking straight away. Goes about looking straight away without verifying whether I exist or not. Have I woken up or not before able to see? Before able to see, first you woke up or not, verify. Nobody verifies because already awake. He's already awake. First he doesn't wake up himself and then in the waking condition and look at others. See, in order to look at others, do you need to wake up and then look at others? Or you are already awake? There is no time you are not awake. Siddhasyaiva hi drashtur drishya vishayini darshanecha sambhavati. Siddhasya, you are already awake. Already awake when? There is no... The awake word, English word itself means sometimes you are awake, sometimes you are asleep. But Atma is never asleep. It is already awake. Continuously, all the time. Its very nature is wakefulness. It's not, it doesn't sleep for a while and wake up for a while. Okay. Its very nature is consciousness. Okay. Today being first day, 11:30 to 12:30, people have agreed it. I don't know, some people may find it difficulty, but I think 11:30 suits, it's better. I think you will adjust it. So 12:20, first day you have to get used to it. Okay, I'll finish it in one or two sentences. So siddhasyaiva drashtur drishya vishayini darshanecha sambhavati kimcha. Now okay, he's slightly changing the argument. Anyway, we will not stretch it. Today we will close little early. I think tomorrow we will do 11:30 to 12:30. Please remember, you have to make little adjustment of your own routine and you try. So kimcha, this is another argument. This whole page is beautiful. We have to go point by point. Let us do lot of manana and nididhyasana in the class itself, because these 2 pages we may take 2 or 3 classes, doesn't matter. But each sentence is beautiful. Each sentence is an excellent manana nididhyasana. Kincha. Next, from the kincha onwards, we shall. Tomorrow also we will have Sugama only. Okay, for a few days let us have Sugama only. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.